Hello, you little rays of sunshine. Can Oprah enthusiast Nathan Rance here, dishing up another mediocre video. I'm here today to open up a can of worms and to talk about Encanto and family abuse. Delightful. Now, this film is about how it's okay for a teenager to be the emotional support and glue that holds a three-tiered generational family together that's disintegrating due to emotional abuse. Now, you might be asking yourself, and not likely, why Encanto? Well, let me provide a little bit of backstory before I rip this film to shreds. So here I was walking in Target. Now, for all you freedom lovers out there, I'm talking about the Australian Target. A retail chain that's being slowly consumed and devoured and combined with another retail chain called Kmart, like Jeff Goldblum in The Fly. Now, for all you free healthcare haters out there, I'm talking about the Australian Kmart, a retail chain that's convinced everyone that while their products are destined for landfill, it's a good deal because their price tags are somewhat cheaper than their competitors. In saying that, I love my Kmart branded electrical foot warmers. So while I was walking around Target, I came across this thing. And you might be thinking, what's wrong with this? It's just a child's playset of the hit song We Don't Talk About Bruno. Yeah, a hit song about how a family member had to flee due to the psychological abuse hurled at him from his family and surrounding townsfolk, and now has to live in the walls of his family home and has become completely cooked in the brain department. I mean, they literally demonize him in the song. They call him a ghoulish creep for no other reason than the fact that they misunderstood his powers to begin with. Yeah, it's perfect child playset material. Oh, we don't talk about Bruno.
Oh, hey guys, it's me, Bruno. Bruno,
goddamn,
Bruno.
I don't understand what I did wrong. Let's cut his fucking fingers off. Fucking low-life piece of shit. I so think he fucked those rats, that sick fuck. I just want to be loved. I'm gonna grow a row stem through your urethra, you soy boy beta cucks, spineless. Oh, I took it too far, didn't I? Oh, I took it too far. But honestly, who thought this was a good idea, huh? A playset about the ostracization of a family member? I mean, what's next? New from Mattel. Baby Maori gets thrown out of a boat by his mother playset. Grandma breaks guitar playset. Finding a dead body in the river playset. Actually, that one sounds pretty good. Look, I feel like this film could have been an amazing take on toxic family behavior. I mean, the idea of visualizing family dynamics through individual powers and the progressive destruction of the family home, a home that's centered at the physical location of the grandma's trauma, is actually quite clever. But the way the film does the resolution to family toxic behavior falls shorter than that guy that tries to miss the propeller when he's jumping off the sinking Titanic in James Cameron's hit film, The Terminator 2.
I'll try spinning. That's a good trick.
The biggest problem I have occurs in the final moments of the film. Graham explains to Mirabelle why she treated the family like an array of insects waiting to be devoured from the inside out by a parasitoid wasp spawn. She apologizes to Mirabelle. She embraces Bruno, but doesn't apologize to him. Bruno apologizes to the whole family with the same energy as a hostage, apologizing to his captors for trying to escape. And they all live happily ever after, and no one is ever mean again. Oh, it's so sweet, and would have been also perfect if it wasn't for the fact that this is all feel-good nonsense built up on a foundation of wishful thinking and deceit. I see through your lies, Disney. You can't fool me. The core issue I have with this film is the contrast between the extent of the emotional trauma inflicted upon the characters and how the ending is supposed to be the turning point for a healthier dynamic. And it rings hollow for a number of reasons. Firstly, let's look at the extent of the trauma that's been inflicted by Graham over the duration of the film. Let's start with Bruno first. Oh, Bruno. Oh, Bruno! I mean, this guy went through the ringer. I mean, they dragged him through the metaphorical shit-filled outhouse, and when he finally got to the other side, they continued to shit on his face. Now, in the spirit of being a spineless centrist, let's look at all the things that Bruno did that was morally incorrect, such as... Oh, would you look at that? Absolutely nothing. So let's see how Bruno was treated, okay? He gets a power that he had absolutely no control over. immediately gets blacklisted by the people around him because they don't like what the future holds for them, even though he's completely blameless for it. For instance, it rained on your wedding day? Bitch, you control the rain. Take some goddamn ownership of your own actions. Beer belly, balding, check your diet and your genetics, because Bruno is not at fault for that. Bruno once prophesied that I'd hurt my own neck trying to suck my own dick. That's ridiculous. I'd never do that. Oh, this neck brace? No, this neck brace is helping me recover from a neck injury from last night. Completely unrelated to that prophecy, though. I'd never do that. I'd never do that. Bruno's such an asshole. And some of them weren't even that bad. I mean, some of the predictions are about how powers would grow or dreams would be realized, and at no point did the family come to comfort or protect him, especially Gram. They all sung merrily along with the other townspeople to bury this poor innocent victim into the depths of despair. Oh, it was all too easy for you to put the blame on him. Oh, you make me sick. So when he got hit with the home run of a prophecy about Mirabelle and the broken home, he had no choice but to flee. You know, this family would burn him at the stake. He predicted one of them would get an overly dehydrated berry in their cereal that had an unpleasant crunch to it. It's just telling to me that this guy would rather live in the asbestos mold-filled walls than to live among his family. At the very least, living in the walls is probably a huge upgrade from his previous room, which was just sand. This house has made some amazing bedrooms for the other family members, and Bruno has to perpetually deal with sandy balls. I prefer the damp pneumonia-inducing walls if I were him too. But it wasn't just his health that the family put in jeopardy. Oh no. No, they caused devastation to his very core. Bruno has become the shell of a functioning adult. He can barely string a sentence together without feeling like he's about to be lynched. He has severe, undeserved guilt, which affects his ability to confront those who have wronged him. He seeks the company of animals because he doesn't trust humans anymore. Oh crap, am I Bruno? Like, I think we can all agree here that there's no great change coming for Bruno. You know, he's stuck like this for life. You can't just give him a pat on the back and all of a sudden he's functioning again. He's emotionally disfigured from this point forward. And all the blame can be traced back to the family dynamic created and set by his mother. And oh, what a dynamic. Oh, what a dynamic. A dynamic that only grew stronger as the generations went on. For you see, when Mirabelle was granted no power, we saw just how deep that poison runs. The minute that this despicable woman realizes what's going on, she's exposed for the soul-crushing piss goblet that she is. Mirabelle became instantly useless in her eyes, disposable. She wouldn't even be worth spitting on. She basically shoves Mirabelle in purgatory, which is a dust mite-infested room designed for children. They all forget to include Mirabelle in the family photos. Mirabelle has to constantly hear the grandma talk about how having powers is integral to your value. She berates Mirabelle in front of everyone over the whole cracking ordeal, even though later on in the film we see that Gram is truly bothered by it and knows that it's real. Oh God, what a twat. Oh, Mirabelle should have just let the whole house burn. F*** 'em, spit on that candle. And what really frustrates me about this film is how it spinelessly tries to portray her parents as really supportive. Yet, for most of her life, they've just let this despicable woman wreak absolute havoc on their daughter's self-esteem. You know, and the mum tries to tell Mirabelle that she's perfect, but I've got a better idea. Why don't you tell Gram to take a hike and back the fuck off? Later on, the mum's all like, you're being too hard on Mirabelle to the grandma. But the energy she has is so goddamn weak. She sounds like a friend telling you that you're putting too much Q-pie roasted sesame dressing on your salad. I'll eat as much Q-pie roasted sesame dressing as I want. You're her goddamn parents. You let this woman run amok on Mirabelle's self-esteem for her own ambitions. I got a better idea. How about telling Grandma that if you diss my daughter again, I'm going to stuff you in a suitcase and bury you 6 feet under? And it's not just Gram here. What about the sister Isabella? She's constantly excreting all over Mirabelle's face. And no one does anything. No one reels her in. No. And later on, Mirabelle's forced to reconcile with Isabella. You know, she's forced to apologize to fix the family. which of course Gram has an issue with for some reason because she's a certified Now, why is she forced to apologize? Well, while you might think Mirabelle has no power, her power is actually to be the glue that holds the family together. Oh, so deep. Oh, so empowering. She's the most important piece to shine light on all the trauma and fix the fraying ends of this family. Oh, yeah, Disney. A 15-year-old should have all the responsibility and maturity to be the emotional lightning rod for 3 generations of family. That is just like real smart. Here's the thing, that's not heartwarming, that's a fucking travesty. Do you know what happens to kids that have to bear the responsibility of keeping their family together? They grow into emotionally stunted adults that can barely look after their own needs because they're too busy taking on the burden for others. You know, this isn't a coming of age story for Mirabelle. No, it's the coming of years of therapy. And Gram's devastating reach hits all the family members, turning them all into victims. Louise is pressured into being the strong one and never allowed to show weakness. Isabella is forced into a marriage and the idea of perfectionism. Mirabelle's parents have the fortitude of an overcooked rice noodle because their feelings of worth and authority over their own children has been ground to dust. And the rest have to live up to Gram's expectations because they're too shit scared of her. This isn't something the family can just get over. You can't just sing a song about rebuilding self-esteem and all of a sudden you're a functioning family again. No, it's going to take generations before they start seeing results. Does this film really think that just showing the grandma apologizing showcases the turning point for a healthier dynamic? Apologizing is merely the beginning, and as many people would have experienced, in that sort of dynamic, apologies come in such inflated value that it would make even the 1923 government of Germany's jaw drop. A typical cycle of an abusive, toxic relationship kind of goes like this. You know, the abuser does abusory activities, probably takes it too far one time, and the victim calls them out on it. So the abuser then apologizes and probably love bombs the victim with the ferocity of the bombing of the Allies of the summer of 1942. The victim then feels guilty and tries to appease the abuser in the hopes of de-escalating the situation. You know, much like Chamberlain's war strategy in the 1930s. The abuser waits like a frozen SS soldier, waiting to be thawed out in that warm, pleasant East European sun, and then in a short amount of time are up to their usual hijinks of rearming Germany for a hostile takeover of Europe and then the world. Sorry, I blacked out there for a second. My point is, given a long history of abuse, apologies tend to come in oversupply, while meaningful action takes the sidelines. Okay, Gram has spent decades cultivating an environment where her family feels immense pressure to live up to her expectations and unsustainable vision, to the point where they're willing to destroy a family member, Bruno, for what they perceive as a negative genetic inheritance. Do you think she can just let that go? Decades, generations of behaviors gone unchecked. Christ, it's hard enough to get old people to stop railing on minorities. I'll never watch Encanto. Sounds too ethnic for my liking. Kids today are too brown. Look, this lady has deep-seated issues that have arisen out of her own trauma and habit. Her reaction is all too human. But that doesn't mean she gets to ride the SS Redemption back into the arms of her overly forgiving family. No, and if this family has any backbones, they'd shove old Grams in the walls and not let her out until they've fixed all the damage that she's done. Now, you might be thinking I'm being too harsh on this film. Hear me out. We are inundated with family-friendly films that use this sorry fixes all, happily ever after formula because it makes us feel good and follows a satisfying story structure. But I do believe it gives impressionable viewers unrealistic expectations when confronting abuse because many abusers do not change. Even if they do, the endless supply of sorries doesn't even come close to footing the repair bill of the victims. And it should never be a given that the abuser gets to remain in the victim's life just because they're family. If Bill from accounting takes a massive shit in your packed lunch, then feels great remorse, no one would fault you for vacating Bill out of your life. But if Bill was your family member, apparently you still have to see him at Christmas and triple check the stuffing in the turkey for contaminants. And also, I can't let it go. I mean, they put more emphasis on Bruno apologizing than the grandma. He apologizes way more than the grandma. She only apologizes to Mirabelle. And Bruno's borderline about to hold out his palm like a submitting chimp. I mean, why do they put more emphasis on Bruno apologizing? He's a goddamn victim. They should be begging for his forgiveness. He couldn't have abandoned them because they abandoned him first.
Yo, I knew he never left, I heard him every day.
What do you mean you could hear him? You mean you could hear your uncle living in the walls of the house and you didn't think to mention this to anyone? You didn't think it was kind of weird? He could have been a pervert. He could have been watching you wank. Oh, speaking of wanking, can we talk about the house for a second? I mean, I think the film is trying to imply that the house is the dead grandpa. At the very least, the house is alive. And the family have been banging in it for generations. Like, are the beds the grandpa too? Have they been banging in the grandpa? Has he been watching him wank? Oh, the trauma. So, that was Encanto, and we have learned absolutely nothing. Well, we have touched on a lot of sensitive topics today, and if you found it relatable, and even if you didn't, I hope you could get a laugh out of it. And I sincerely hope that you are having an amazing day, and you find some time to do something you're passionate about. You know, something to distract you from how shitty the world is right now, because it is quite shitty right now. And if you do have a grandma like the one in this film, or you have any family members like that, do yourself a favor and just pop them in the trash can. And if they start, hollering at you for doing so, just get the bin lid and pop it over their head as well. Seal them in.